welcome to our last Dive Deeper of the year.
That's crazy.
All right, so a couple announcements to be aware of. First thing is that I decided to change the date for the first Summer Serve training. The forms had said June 19th, but we're actually going to do it during Sunday school this Sunday, so that's June 12th. So if you're interested in Summer Serve, make sure to come this Sunday for that training. For those of you who don't attend Middleton Baptist, if you aren't able to make it, that's all right. Just let me know and we can talk about the training material another time.
And also this Sunday is the soup fundraiser for Summer Serve. So if you're hoping to fundraise for your registration costs, make sure to tell your leader right now and they'll let Oliver know that you're going to help on Sunday, okay? If you want to help, look at your leader right now and say, I want to help with the fundraiser.
Okay, so we need a few of you to come in on Saturday at 4 p.m. to set up tables so that they're ready to go for Sunday. So it should only take us like 30 minutes or so. And then on Sunday, once we're done the training in Sunday school, we'll go up to the kitchen to make sure everything's good to go, the soups and all that. And then when everyone comes down after the service, you guys will also serve the food and such.
Another thing that would be really cool at the fundraiser would be for a few of you to share something that God has done in your life this year and something you're looking forward to at Summer Serve. So think about if you'd be willing to do that and either let your leader know tonight or talk to Oliver.
Yeah, I think it would be so encouraging for our church to hear what God has been doing in your lives this year. All right, so last announcement, rally night is next week.
Yeah, our last rally night of the year. Take this opportunity to invite your friends. It's going to be a lot of fun and it's a great opportunity for them to hear about Jesus.
Yeah, and I'll be talking about how Jesus teaches that our life is not defined by the stuff we own. He says in Luke 12:15, life is not measured by how much you own. So I'm gonna be talking about how, that's not to judge us or condemn us for stuff or whatever, but it's actually good news that frees us from the pressure of owning more stuff and the newest stuff. And so I think this talk is gonna be really important for us all to hear and hopefully really encouraging.
That sounds great, and there's gonna be food?
Yeah, there's gonna be food. Not sure what yet exactly, but it's gonna be good, and there's gonna be fun games afterwards. So as always, it's a great month to invite your friends.
All right, let's do a warm-up question. If you could have lunch with any person, dead or alive, who would it be?
All right, Janet, what stood out to you this week in Matthew 28?
So this chapter of Matthew is kind of like the climax of the whole gospel story. Jesus just died brutally. His followers are at their homes observing Sabbath day and mourning his death. Then they wake up the next day to some of the women from their group telling them that Jesus has come back to life and called them his brothers to meet him in Galilee. What a shock!
Right, so he says in verse 10, don't be afraid. Go tell my brothers to leave for Galilee, and they will see me there.
Yeah, so the word brothers really stood out to me. Jesus' followers had probably been feeling that they had failed their Lord after being cowards the night of his crucifixion. And to hear that he called them his brothers would have been so reassuring that they could go right to him without fear of condemnation. The use of Jesus' words brother stood out to me because it's such an intimate term, like beloved, and tells us so much of Jesus' love and forgiveness that has never changed or ended, and continues for all of us, even after he's no longer here on earth.
All right, so this might be a bit out of your comfort zone tonight, but it's the last week of Dive Deeper, so I want to challenge you to be a little vulnerable. I want you to think of a time in your life when you did something you knew was wrong, or you felt ashamed of it, and you felt like you were totally unworthy of Jesus' forgiveness, like the disciples would have. And I want you to try to be more open than usual with your group and share that with them. And then we will reassure you that Jesus still calls you brother or sister, that he forgives you and still loves you.
There's something really powerful about confessing these things to someone else and having them reassure us of God's forgiveness. That's why we're encouraging you to do this tonight, because it actually really helps heal the hurt and shame that you might feel.
We also want to reiterate that anything that we share in Dive Deeper is confidential. So unless you're being abused or you're thinking of hurting yourself or someone else, we have to report those things to the police. Anything else, no one is allowed to share this stuff outside this group. Like, if I hear that you shared something that your Dive Deeper group shared with, if you share that with people at school, like, you're done. You're banned from youth group. Like, honestly, if you break everyone's trust and someone shares something like that, vulnerable like that, like, that's against the rules, and there are consequences for that, okay? So the reason I say that is that everyone needs to know that this is a safe place to share.
All right, so let's talk about that now. Is there a time you want to tell us about where you wondered if God would ever forgive you? Okay, Oliver, what stood out to you this week?
Well, the very last verses of Matthew are sometimes called the Great Commission. Basically, it's the mission that Jesus gave his church to accomplish as he was leaving earth. So could you read that for me?
All right, Matthew 28:18-20. Jesus came and told his disciples, "I have been given all authority in heaven and on earth. Therefore, go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you. And be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age."
Thanks. So there's a few things that I want to point out in this chunk. So the first thing is that Jesus tells us to go and make disciples.
Okay, what's a disciple?
So a disciple means a student or like an apprentice. If you follow Jesus, you're his apprentice. Like an apprentice electrician learns from an expert electrician how to be good at their job, we are disciples, we're apprentices of Jesus, and we learn from him how to live and how to love God and to love people.
Okay, so we're supposed to go and make more apprentices of Jesus. The next thing he says is to make disciples of all nations. What does that mean?
Well, the word nations in Greek normally means everyone who's not Jewish. So all the other races and all the other ethnic groups of the world, other than the Jewish people, since Jesus' first disciples were Jewish. So he's telling them that his mission, his good news, isn't just for one race or one ethnic group, it's for everyone.
So God is like the first anti-racist ever?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the next thing Jesus tells us is to baptize these new disciples in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. So we've talked about baptism recently, so I'll just quickly remind you that it's a symbol of you dying and being buried in the water, just like Jesus died and was buried. And then you come out of the water, which represents how you've been given new spiritual life, just like Jesus was raised from the dead.
Okay, so when we help other people become apprentices of Jesus, we're supposed to baptize them. Next, he says we need to teach them all the commands he gives us.
Yeah, so it doesn't stop with them getting baptized. There's this whole lifelong process of learning to live the Jesus way, to follow his commandments. Our lives should change as we become apprentices of Jesus. Like we ask every week in our journal question about application. How should this change my desires? How should it change my actions?
Okay, this is a lot. The last part of the Great Commission is that Jesus says, "And be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age."
Yeah, so this is a reminder that we can't do any of this on our own. We need Jesus' power and his presence with us to help us. And for those of you who came to OneCon last weekend, do you remember this from Jason's talk? Who is the empowering presence of Jesus who helps us do hard things and walks with us through hard things? Right, the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is the empowering presence of God. He empowers us who follow Jesus and enables us to live like him and to accomplish his Great Commission. And so we couldn't do anything without him.
Okay, so that was a quick overview of the Great Commission. Let's stop and discuss this in our groups. What part of the Great Commission sounds the hardest to you that you need the Holy Spirit to help you with the most?